Ladies and gentlemen, people of UCLA Radio, welcome back to UCLA Radio's Red Carpet's Wrestlemania. Today on the show, we have a legend with us, not just a legend, a WWE Hall of Famer, a champion all over the world, and a member of the untold legendary Anoa'i family in the world of professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, we got with us Rikishi Fatu. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, son. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. And of course, for those people who don't know, just tell us, when did you start wrestling? When did you get into this industry? I mean, obviously, I know the answer is that it's in your blood, but when did you decide you wanted to be a professional wrestler? Let's get into that right off the bat.
Oh, geez, man. I mean, we're talking way back, 1986. I actually started, I wasn't a fan of professional wrestling before. I was a young kid, born and raised in San Francisco, California, in the Bay Area. And, during the times as a young kid, I always used to watch my uncles Alpha and Sika on professional wrestling. And so, but my mind during that time in school was, I used to love playing basketball and I love playing football. So I didn't even have professional wrestling in my sight.
Mm-hmm.
And, during the times in the Bay Area, if you come from the streets of San Francisco, it gets kind of rough out there. And, I knew then that, it was time for me to, kind of make a choice. And it was actually my parents really that kind of threw me into it there because I was one of those kids that was going down the bad road, the streets of San Francisco. And, Polynesian parents, they don't mess around. It's just two things going to happen to you. Either you're going to get buried in the streets of San Francisco, wherever you're at, or we're going to try to save your life and send you someplace to where you can get some discipline, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how it kind of started for me was in, I want to say 1985, 86.
And so obviously you're from the Bay Area and San Francisco, as you said. Did you start training in California?
Oh no, man. I didn't even start like I said, um, I got sent over to my uncle's 1985, 86. And it is there to where I started training. I mean, we didn't, our training with my uncles there, we didn't have an academy. Like nowadays, there's a lot of academies around the world and the
Mm-hmm.
country and so forth. We were trained on hand in the backyard, putting up the ring, tearing down the ring. We built the rings. So that's what our training was, on hand trainings with my uncles.
Okay. And of course, eventually you made your way to the WWE. But before we get to that, I just wanted to ask you, for those who don't know, what is it like trying to come up in the business in the independent circuit or back in those times, the territories?
It's very hard, back in those days, there was a lot of traveling. They only had a certain group of guys in different territories that were their main roster.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of the guys that are not a part of that roster, if you were around with somebody that was on that roster, well, you just might get lucky because somebody on that roster either might can't, couldn't make the show, or somebody got hurt, and then is there to where you kind of, get your first opportunity. And you're kind of like you're filling in for somebody that was supposed to be there, but
Mm-hmm.
then the rest is up to you. Either the promoters, they like you, and they like how you work, and then the relationship starts from there.
Mm-hmm. And when you made it to the WWE eventually, you didn't start off as the Rikishi character that we all know today. What was it like coming up with who you were? You're finding your identity in WWE, and how did you end up with that character?
Well, we didn't have we didn't have an identity when, I mean, I'm talking, it took me probably 6 7 years before I made it to WWE. Let me back up how I got there. My uncles, Alpha and Sika, they had us travel all around the world. What we call pay your dues in this industry. And it wasn't even about. I mean, I was probably making $30 a booking,
Mm-hmm.
a show, and at that time, you kind of get frustrated. I had a, I had a family. I had my kids, the twins, and so forth, and yet, I'm going all around the world and you know, uh, wrestling in different companies where my uncles book us. And wasn't really making no money. And, I used to always ask myself, why am I doing this if I'm not making no money? But my uncles, we took so long uh, to try to get to WWE. We were working around the independent circuit to build our name and our brand.
Hmm.
Everybody knew who Afonseca was, but they didn't know who we were. And the time I started with my uncle, with my cousin Samu, who we became the head shrinkers, the SST then. But you know, they wanted to teach us the value of professional wrestling, learning to love and to respect it. That it's not easy. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes with this industry. There's a lot of bad that comes with the industry, and they wanted us to, to kind of smarten us up how this industry works uh, and prep us up for the WWE. That way, when by the time you get to WWE, whatever money you made over that $30, you'd appreciate it, And so for us, when we finally made it to WWE, me and my partner Samu, we came in as the head shrinkers,
Hmm.
and we didn't have any. I mean, I'm sorry, we came in as ourselves, the Samoans. We're with our uncle Alpha, and we had a dark match, and we didn't have any gimmicks, son. We came in as who we are, as Polynesian men, Samoan men, that where we come from. And by the time we got there, we were already prepped and ready. Like, we were, man, I think we were like 20, 25 or 24 by the time we got there.
Hmm.
And we were a bunch of young horses, but we were working like professionals.
Right.
I mean, we were already groomed, and our technique was tight. Our business mind was already tight. Like we were already ready, and we had that one dark match. And by the time we got back, we were offered to negotiate for a contract.
And once you're in there, once you're in that system, when was it that eventually you get approached and they want to break you off into a singles character that is Rikishi?
Well, it's a combination of that. It's not so much of them, you know, asking you to break off of that.
Hmm.
In this industry, son, there's a lot more to come with that, and there's choices that you make. Me and my cousin, we ran so hard before we got there, and during the times there, you know, my cousin decided to kind of break off for a bit and take some rest. And so as a tag team, it's very hard when your partner, when you split up, it's very hard to rebuild back. So there was a choice: either I wanted to come back and try the singles thing, or
Hmm.
do I just take some time off and come back in a later time when we're ready as a tag team. And so in this industry, you have opportunities that'll come during your way, and you almost got to make the right choice. So I knew I had I just bought a new home, and I knew that if I took some time off as a tag team, I didn't want to kind of fall back down that ladder and then have to rebuild, because we became tag team champions as a head shrinker. So
Hmm.
in order for me to to kind of stay in the loop, I kind of just went ahead and made the choice to be able to kind of stick it out and see where the singles competition will take me.
Gotcha. And obviously, the Rikishi character is somewhat an homage to another one of your family members, Yokozuna, taking that sumo sort of style. Was it you that decided you wanted to do that and pay homage to Yokozuna, or was it Vince McMahon or someone else in your family coming telling you should try this?
Well, it was a combination of both. Again, the WWE came with their idea as far as when they wanted to do the sumo character. Um, to respect to my cousin, Nobody Yokozuna, I kind of didn't want to do the sumo deal,
Hmm.
but when they originally wanted to do that sumo character with Yoko, but fully blown, meaning the real, they wanted the daishiki on there, the where you're actually showing the whole sumo gear.
Right.
And for me during that time, I've went through so many characters from Fatu Make a Difference. I was just leaving, just coming back from the head shrinker. We did the Fatu Make a Difference. Then we went to the Sultan, and finally we got to the Rikishi deal. And I kind of looked at it. What this was during a time where my contract was almost up, meaning I had 90 days before that Sultan character was over with.
Uh-huh.
And so, for me, there was a few things. Number one, I knew I had to, okay, what do I do after 90 days? I got a family to take care of, but also I didn't want to kind of do a ripoff of my cousin due to respect to Yoko. And
Right.
I'm not even in Yoko's level, even if I tried, and so this is where we kind of went back and forth with WWE. And, I kind of, okay, my thing was I just wanted to make sure that my home, when I came home to explain to my family, especially my kids, they were young, how kids can be in high school and they can be very, very cruel. But I wanted to show them that this is what I'll be wearing when I come out to my next character,
Right.
if I decide to do it. And they were all very supportive. They knew that I love professional wrestling. I knew that my skills, of my in-ring skills, were good to a point to where I can make any character come alive.
Of course.
And so when I got the support from my family, for me, I was going to do everything I can to make this character work. And the first thing I wanted to do was change my appearance. And that's where the iconic blonde hair comes through. And then, I wanted to, the gimmick that I was wearing, obviously we can see I'm probably the first man to wear a thong on national TV. and the rest was history. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make the character be a fun character. And at the same time, I wanted to have my own identity,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in this family of Samoan dynasty, which is so many of us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you managed to do that. You had so many different facets to this character, both in a serious sense, in a world title sense, in a comedic sense. So I wanted to ask you, which part of that character's run was your favorite? Was it with Too Cool and, Scotty Tuhati and Grandmaster Sexay? Or did you relish the chance you got to work against The Rock and Stone Cold and those guys?
Well, I mean, that's a very difficult question for me. I love every single the names that you just mentioned. But for me, I had a lot of fun with Too Cool, with Scotty and Brian, Grandmaster. Um, we've the memories that I have with those two gentlemen is we brought something to the stage that has never been seen before,
Yeah.
and I was very happy to be a part of that. When we all got together, it was magic. To be able to get in the ring, especially when we're getting ready to bust a move. In a quick time, we became a household name and fan favorites, and I knew that there was something special between us three. And then as the Too Cool Rikishi character continued to shine, it was only fitting for the Rikishi character to move up. So we can do the 6-man together or a tag team,
Mm-hmm.
or to break off that, one of the Too Cool members, which would be myself, to be the single competition cat.
Right.
And, I enjoyed working with The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Triple H. Probably one of my memorable matches with those cats would have to be Hell in a Cell.
Of course. I mean, on that, let's talk about Hell in a Cell. So it's one of those moments that everybody's seen who's a wrestling fan or even just knows about Hell in a Cell. And it's up there with the likes of Mick Foley and Shane McMahon falling off. So for you, who first told you, hey, Rikishi, we want you to fall backwards off of the Hell in a Cell onto a truck?
Well, first of all, nobody tells me anything. Right. So let's get that clear. In this industry, I'm trying to put you in my mindset and how this works here. In this industry, everybody has a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And during this time here, number one, I was honored and happy to be a part of something to work with amongst these professionals who, in my book, were the highest in as far as celebrity status in the world of professional wrestling during the time. And to be able to dance with a bunch of pros like that was something that I'll always remember and I'll always cherish. And
Mm-hmm.
so when the opportunity came for me, um, I kind of, I've been watching this thing here with Mick Foley. And I've noticed that, Mick Foley has done a lot for our industry and he has put his body through so much. And during this time here, when this Hell in a Cell came through, that's what I kind of thought about. How can I do something that will, in the highlights years to come, that they will show Mick Foley and show something that Rikishi has done.
Uh-huh.
And so, when we talk about this stunt, that came up to where I took a bump, off. I knew I was going to come off the cage somehow, but, you know, I didn't know that it was going to be something like to where I come off backwards onto the flat bench. Now, keep in mind, we're trained professionals to take these bumps. It's same bumps but different looks. Meaning,
Right.
when we take a fall on the mat, it's the same way as if you can take a fall coming 50 feet high up in a cage. The only
Mm-hmm.
difference is it's just a lot more farther. And for the first time, I probably was scared. I was scared and I was nervous that I was going to take this fall here and not knowing where. I mean, I can't see from behind me where I'm going to land. And when that flatbed came out, and you see the metal rails around that flatbed, you know, and you're listening to you're hearing the crowd, that energy is just up there. It's one of those things that you either take the chance or you know or you miss the opportunity.
Right.
And I remember when Taker went to give me the choke slam, he put his hand on my neck, get ready to push me off. And I told him, tell my family I love them. And it was that moment that probably would have been the last thing I said had I not connect that bump
Mm-hmm.
when I took a fall on that flatbed. So, on other sides of, when we see those type of bumps that professional wrestlers take, you gotta understand that a lot of us, you know, we understand when that opportunity comes, and that opportunity might only come one time. And you got to be able to make that choice. And then the choice is that, do I take it, or do I, just uh, not do what I'm supposed to do because I was trained when I get to when we get to the shows from my uncles, your job is to go out there and entertain for the people
Right.
that paid that hard-earned money to come there. And so I don't recommend anybody taking those falls like that from the top gates.
And, you're going to be remembered for things like that. For another big move that you did was off the steel cage against Val Venus. And another, out of all those big moves, probably the thing you're going to be most remembered for is a move that, it's not a big bump, but it's your finishing maneuver. It's that Stinkface, the move that nobody wanted to take and the one the crowd would always go wild for. So how did you come up with that? And obviously it's part of that character, but how did that become so popular? And when did you realize that the crowd are loving this?
Well, hell, all this time I didn't realize my money maker was right behind me, the rump shaker. Um, that move there, it accidentally came. I mean, hell, I knew somewhere down the line I had to figure out something. I mean, I'm wearing a thong. You pretty much see all my business hanging out. And so, I don't I want to give credit to an old lady out there in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. I actually wrestled Boss Man in a house show,
Uh-huh.
and I've never done the stink face before. You know, I knew every time I took off my sumo skirt, you always hear the crowd when they see my buttocks. It was like, oh my goodness, oh God, look at that. I mean, without people saying it to me, I can feel that. And so while I was wrestling during the match, and somewhere there during the middle of the match, I clotheslined Big Boss Man, and he actually took a bump in the corner of the turnbuckle, in which we know today the stink face position.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, you know, as he took that fall, all I heard was like a loud voice, and there's like 15,000 people in the arena, but I can hear this one voice was like, Rikishi, turn around and stick your butt in his face. And I'm like, I did that slow look to where you see that look to where I turn around this way, like I'm going to give the stink face. That's where that look, that's where that move was born, because I was actually looking around the front row for that voice who said that. And as I turned around and I seen Big Boss Man was in the corner in stink face position, well, I took one step forward towards him, and I can hear the crowd. It's almost like a volcano. It's you know. I took another step towards him. The closer I got, the louder that arena. It's almost like a volcano ready to erupt. And so I walked over to him. I was actually walking to him just to see, okay, what am I going to do next? And as I got there, right in front of him, the arena was that it was that noise and that applause to where the only thing that they're waiting for was for me to turn around and stick my butt in his face. Now, keep in mind, I've never done this before. But when I turned around, you can hear Boss Man, we got him now, baby. We got him now. Go ahead and stick that booty in my face. Stick that booty in my face. And in my mind, I said, well, all right, I'm kind of sweaty, but here it goes.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if you ask for it, you got to do it. If the crowd asks for it, you got to do it.
well, I mean, that's, you know, when I hit him with that, and it was the loudest. This was on a Sunday, son.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the loudest pop I probably heard in my career ever, besides winning the championship belts with my cousin Samu. But this,
Mm-hmm.
for Rikishi's character, was the loudest pop that I've heard. And that was a Sunday. Come Monday was Monday Night Raw, and the Stink Face was born then.
Who was your favorite person that you loved giving the stink face to?
Oh my goodness, there were so many, man. I guess, you know, from an entertainment standpoint, you know, pretty much everybody either they like their boss or they don't like or they don't like their boss. I'd have to say either Vince McMahon, where me and The Rock closed up the Kiss My Ass
Uh-huh.
club. So I'd have to say Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon.
That makes sense. Those are two people who sold that really well.
I don't know. I beg the difference. I think Booker T did.
Oh yeah, Book also took a great stink face. He went
But
out and puked all over Michael Cole, so that's another level.
yeah, I think he sold it pretty good. So, but yeah.
And is there anyone who you never wanted to give the stink face to, who they said, you want to give it to, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to make him suffer, or I don't
Hey
want to
man,
give him.
I didn't care who it was. I knew what I was paid to do. I knew what the fans wanted. To me, you guys were more important to me than the guys that I'm working with, because my job was to entertain for those that paid a hard-earned ticket to come and watch
Mhm.
Rikishi do his thing. And it was always too, as this character grew, there was really only two things that the fans wanted to see me do, and that was the stink face and to dance.
Uh-huh.
You know, and you know, I tell a lot of wrestlers that you guys think that's the easiest thing. That's the most hardest thing. For me, wrestling is easy. But to get out there and, you know, to dance and to do the stink face. And I don't mind giving the stink face to the wrestlers or the females, the divas that are out there. But the only one problem I have is when I'm going to give somebody the stink face, and you know when they don't shave,
Uh-huh.
because my buttocks is very, very fragile. And so when I sit on somebody, go to give them the stink face, you can almost feel like it's like cutting my butt, you know.
Right.
So I was just to tell them, make sure you shave first,
Gotcha. That's the hidden dangers of the stink face.
right?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, not only have you given all that for us and all the memories in the wrestling ring, you've also given us two other amazing things. That's Jimmy and Jey Uso, the tag team legends, two of the greatest in WWE. When they were growing up, did you always know these guys have got it? These guys are going to be wrestlers?
Well, yeah, but my kids, they were athletes as soon as they came out the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Now whether I wanted them to go into the business, no, absolutely not. I wanted them to, to come out of college, and I wanted them to go into playing football, and into the NFL league and so forth. But as the kids grew up, they were always around the business. I mean, I had a ring in the backyard, and they used to train, bounce around, jump around with their uncle, the late Umaga, and they had Yoko around there. So
Mm-hmm.
it was always in their blood, all the way to Roman Reigns. Those three were called a triple threat,
Yeah.
and they were always at the house in the backyard, swimming, wrestling, you name it. They were a bunch of young kids that just terrorize everything, break furniture in the house, jumping off a bed. Your normal kids.
Yeah.
You know,
So, I mean, this year has been such a big year for the Anoa'i family. We've seen Roman Reigns return and become Universal Champion. Jey Uso has had killer matches inside Hell in a Cell. We saw the return of Afa and Sika to give their respect, so-called, to Roman Reigns. What has been your take on, all the appearances of your family, and what is it about that Samoan dynasty that makes you guys so prolific in this business?
we're that damn good. We put asses in seats and we put eyes on the monitors. Whenever it's something, you know, coming from our culture and our family, you know, that's just in us. We're just very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
We're very respectful people. We're happy-go-lucky people. The culture and the faith is very, very strong in our family. Um, yeah, and so I teach Peter Maivia to my uncles Alpha and Sika, to The Rock, to Yokozuna, all the way down to the youngest in our family that's in the industry. Everybody had their own footsteps that they need to walk in. I mean, it was already paved the way as far as with the dynasty legacy. Now, that was the thing that we, for myself and a lot of us, uh, that those that come before you, you either had to come in and be just as good as them or better.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd leave it alone, and we'd tell you,
Right.
we'd say, no, this business is not for you. You don't. You just move a different way. You're not. It's not for you, because we have that gift of being able to tell if you have the gift to be able to do what we do. And so all the way until now um, with the members, I think it's man, I lost count. I think it's 18 of us, past, present, and future,
Uh-huh.
and all the way to Roman Reigns and the Usos. We're very, very proud. Our family, those that are not there, were very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to let each other grow. Unless you ask me for an opinion or an advice, I'll tell you. And even with my own kids, unless they ask me for opinion or advice, I'll tell them. But I want them, to find it. They got
Right.
to find it on their own. They got to stand on their own. And I think they're all three of them there that's representing the family is doing a great job.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, so just two more questions from us. You were telling me earlier you got an academy here, and I wanted to ask you about that. What are you up to now, and how's that going?
Well, my life now, my mind says I can go, but my body says no. After everything kind of slowed down for me after I got inducted into the Hall of Fame,
Right.
WWE Hall of Fame in 2015. And so, I've been a part of, my life now is to be a part of kids that are wanting to learn the industry and to be able to really teach the ins and outs of the industry. So, I opened up an academy here in Los Angeles with my cousin Reno, who's a black pro as well, as a wrestler as well. And it's called Knokx Pro Wrestling Academy. So it's KNOKXPRO.com. So you can go on there and you can find all the informations and so forth. So, you know, I love the industry so much, and I feel like I still have a lot to offer.
Right.
And what I have to offer is to the youth, the new kids that are coming into the industry, to be able to kind of, give my input of how this works. Like it's not PlayStation wrestling. Like, a lot of it, I got kids, and I know how, kids think and so forth. Like, you know, to be able to survive in this industry, you have to realize the ins and outs, to sacrifice the time that you put in. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to take the sacrifice and the commitment to be away from your family 200 days out the year? Because I don't even know, like I tell my kids all the time, like I don't know what it is to be a teenage. I came straight out of high school, jumped into training. I turned pro at 21, and 31 years later, here I am.
Right.
So, my thing is to be able to make sure that you kids understand exactly what our business is about. Yes, it's entertainment, but what comes with the entertainment after that, you're going to see the same professional wrestler years down the line, and you will not recognize this guy. Either they got a pulled disc, or they're crippled, they're in a wheelchair, or it's the sacrifice. And I just thank God that I'm not in a wheelchair. I thank God that I'm still able to walk on my own 2 feet. I still got all my senses. My brain is still working right,
Hmm.
and so it is that. And so training, Open Academy was the best thing for me. Like, it keeps me alive. You know what I mean? This isn't a weird way when you're so used to entertaining, being gone away from home all the time, and then all of a sudden you're just shut. Now you're trying to live the normal life like everybody else, but so with having the academy go back and forth 3 times a week back then when the pandemic didn't hit, and it's we keep contact with the students through Zoom. You know, we we talk on a weekly basis, to be able to help them deal with what's going on as far as
Right.
the business, the times that we're in right now. So then I'm busy with my Rikishi talk show, my Rikishi Driver talk show. I do that, every Friday, and I'll bring out different celebrities, like different wrestlers, all the way from MMA fighters to actors, you name it, whoever we can talk, because I believe that platforms like this, for me, with my story of the journey that what it took for me to get where I am,
Uh-huh.
I believe it can help people,
Oh yeah, for sure.
like to understand that you don't always have a silver platter served all the time. You got to get out there, and you got to you got to set goals. You got to have a plan, and even if that plan, that door shuts, that you can't give up. There's always a test or something that you got to overcome, and just to not quit, because if things that you plan to do, and you believe in it, and you go to a place and they don't buy it from you, then it wasn't for them to have.
Right.
So you got to keep moving forward. So I'm happy. I'm a grandpa right now. So my Rikishi's life is to teach and to spend time and catch up with my family.
That's awesome to hear that you're doing that after all the years of success you've had in the business. Can't wait to keep keeping up. So tell people, where can they find you on Instagram and Twitter?
Well, you can go on only the verified page on Twitter. You'll see at the real Rikishi, it's verified. Also on my IG, Instagram, that is verified as well, Rikishi, and also on Facebook as well. You can check it out. All my platforms, if it's not verified, then it ain't the big quiche.
Got it. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all the years of work in the professional wrestling business. Ladies and gentlemen, Rikishi.
Listen, man, I want to send a big shout out to UCLA, and also my man right here, and this is who I'm talking to. I want to leave you kids with this. If you got a dream, work at it. Don't quit. And it's always easy to each one teach one. And remember, it's free to be kind to one another.